Have you ever just stopped and wondered where that gut feeling, that little voice inside that tells you something is right or wrong, where that actually comes from? It's a huge question, one of the oldest puzzles in human history, and today we're going to try and unravel that mystery. So let me ask you something. Is it always wrong to lie? I mean, what if you had to lie to save someone's life, right? Most of us get a feeling about that, a sense that some moral rules, at least, should apply to everyone, no matter what.
And that's the big mystery we're diving into. If these universal moral laws exist, where are they from? Are they written in the stars? Are they just hardwired into our brains? Or did we just make them all up?
To get to the bottom of this, we're going to start by investigating the classic theories. You know, the main suspects that philosophers have been arguing about for literally centuries.
First up is probably the oldest and most popular idea out there, divine command theory. This one's pretty straightforward. Morality comes directly from God. Think of something like the Ten Commandments. Boom, a clear set of rules from on high. It gives you a really solid, unambiguous foundation for what's right and wrong. But, and this is a big but, this idea walks right into a huge philosophical trap that Plato pointed out a long time ago. It's called the Euthyphro dilemma. Here's part one. Is something good just because God says so? Because if that's the case, couldn't God command us to be cruel? And that would suddenly make cruelty a good thing? That would make all of morality seem kind of random.
And here's the other side of that coin. Or does God command something because it's already good on its own? Well, if that's the case, then it means there's a standard of goodness that exists completely outside of God, which means the ultimate source of morality must be somewhere else. See? It's a real brain bender. So that leads us right into our next theory, natural law. Thinkers like Thomas Aquinas looked at this and said, hey, moral laws are actually built into the fabric of the universe itself and into our own human nature. You don't need a special book to find them. You can discover them just by using your brain, by using reason to look at the world around you. But natural law has its own massive problem, too. It's called the is-ought problem. Just think about it. In nature, the strong often prey on the weak. That's just the way it is. But does that mean that's how we ought to run our societies? Trying to get a moral ought from a natural is a really tricky leap to make. All right, so fast forward to the Enlightenment, and the brilliant philosopher Immanuel Kant comes along with a whole new angle. He said morality doesn't come from God or nature. It comes from pure reason. For Kant, it's not about the results of your actions. It's all about the principle, the maxim behind what you do. And he gave us this amazing test for it, called the Categorical Imperative. Let's try it with lying. First, take your principle. I'll lie whenever it's convenient. Now imagine that becomes a universal law. Everyone, everywhere, lies all the time whenever it suits them. Well, what happens? The whole concept of trust would totally collapse. Language itself would start to fall apart. The act of lying basically eats itself. It creates a contradiction, so it fails the test. It's not a moral action. Pretty neat, right? Okay, but what if morality isn't something we discover at all? What if it's something we invented? That's the main idea behind social contract theory. It says that morality is basically a pragmatic deal we all make to get out of some chaotic state of nature. For a guy like Hobbes, that state was a total nightmare, a war of all against all. For Locke, it was a little better, just insecure. But either way, morality is just the rule book we agree to follow so we can all survive and live together without chaos. And, of course, there's the modern scientific take. Evolutionary biology suggests that our basic moral feelings, empathy, our sense of fairness, cooperation, these are actually traits that evolved over millions of years. They're hardwired into our DNA because they gave our ancestors a survival advantage, helping them cooperate in groups and raise their kids to the next generation. So we've got God, we've got nature, reason, survival, a lot of compelling theories. But what if they're all wrong? What if this whole hunt for universal morality is just a wild goose chase? This brings us to a huge challenge for our whole investigation. This is the core of an idea called cultural relativism. It basically says morality is 100% a product of your culture. There are no universal moral truths, just different strokes for different folks. And you can see the appeal, right? It encourages tolerance. But it also leads to some really problematic places. Because here's the major flaw. If you accept that morality is purely relative, then you lose any grounds to criticize horrible practices like slavery or genocide, as long as some culture somewhere says it's okay. It makes the whole idea of moral progress totally impossible. We can change our morals, sure, but we can never actually improve them.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, it turns out the best answer might not be to just pick one of these theories and throw the others out. Instead, what if we see how they all weave together to create a much richer, more complete picture of where our morality really comes from? I think it's helpful to see our universal morality as a kind of tapestry woven from four main threads: the biological, the social, the rational, and the spiritual.
First, you've got the biological thread. This is our evolutionary starting point, that raw material of empathy and fairness that's been baked into our DNA over eons. It's the foundation, that deep gut feeling that science is just now starting to understand.
Then, woven on top of that is the social thread. This is that practical need to get along and build a stable society, the stuff the social contract theorists talked about. It takes our raw instincts and shapes them into shared rules and customs so we can all live together.
And next comes the really cool part, the rational thread. This is our human superpower. It's our ability to use reason, like Kant said, to step back, look at our instincts and social rules, and refine them into higher principles like justice, human rights, and dignity. It's what allows us to think beyond just our own little tribe.
And finally, there's the spiritual thread. For billions of people on this planet, their faith or spiritual beliefs provide the ultimate why. It's a powerful motivation to live a moral life, connecting back to those ideas of divine purpose and giving our actions a sense of real cosmic significance.
So, okay, that's a lot of philosophy, but why does any of it actually matter today? Well, because figuring out where our sense of right and wrong comes from isn't just some dusty academic game. It has huge, real-world consequences for our future.
I mean, think about the massive global challenges we're facing right now, from climate change to the ethics of AI. To solve these problems, we absolutely have to find some common moral ground. And understanding that our sense of morality has these deep shared roots in our biology, our social needs, our reason, that gives us a real foundation for cooperation. Which leaves us with one final big question to chew on. In a world that's changing faster than ever, what new moral challenges are coming our way? And what new threads might we, all of us, need to weave into this tapestry to guide us into the future?